Minnesota. This is Christie Thompson with Christie Legal. I'm a divorce and custody mediator and paralegal here in Minnesota. And I am here with a panel of professionals who want to help you have a easier, smoother, more positive divorce or separation. And if you could each introduce yourselves like about 30 seconds about what you do and how you help folks who are divorcing. And let's do it alphabetical order by first name. So we will start with Ann.
Hi, my name is Ann Carter. I am a residential loan officer with Summit Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 211972 and 1041 respectively. And I help people get into new homes or refinance their current home, things like that. I'm going to pass it off to Ben now.
Hi, everybody. Ben Millard with Unconditional Living. We help people make the most of themselves who are truly desiring to be, do, and have more in life. And if you're going through divorce, you might be thinking, why are you on this webinar? That's like the furthest thing away from my mind. But the truth is, when you're in transition, especially negative transitions, that's when we tend to do our worst thinking because emotions and stress take over. So that's exactly what we at Unconditional Living do, is help provide a neutral sounding board and a thinking partner to help navigate through some of the difficult life choices you have immediately ahead of you. Ben Millard with Unconditional Living.
Hi, I'm Patrick Stark with Liberty Mutual. What I do is I try to help people find ways to protect the things that are most valuable to them in their lives. When it comes to going through divorce or separation, insurance is probably one of the last things that people want to deal with, and it has a huge impact on people's lives because of the things that you need to protect in your home, and all of those protections and who's owning those protections are all changing. And so I'm here to help with the easy transfer to keeping all of those things protected and making sure that you understand what you're covered for. Patrick Stark with Liberty Mutual.
Hey, good evening. My name is Shiloh Butte. I'm the senior staff attorney at Tubman. Tubman is a nonprofit agency here in the metro area, and we have a legal aid component as part of our agency. So my job is representing low-income victims of domestic violence in their divorce, custody, and order for protection matters.
Thanks, guys. And I am so excited to have somebody from Tubman here. I have worked on Tubman cases since 2011, I believe, when I used to work for attorneys. And I'm telling you, the cases that came from Tubman were really, really not cool. So I really appreciate the work that Tubman attorneys do. And so the work that I do is really different because I help people who are being somewhat amicable, somewhat reasonable. And so because I'm a mediator and a paralegal, so I don't advocate or represent either party. I work with both parties and I help them reach decisions on all the various things that they need to decide. I write their legal documents and then I help them through the court process. So the things that we need to handle in a divorce case, the first thing would be division of assets. So that includes everything. That's your financial accounts, your household goods, your vehicles, your house, or maybe also a rental property. So what we do is we put all that together, and each party, most of the time, walks away with 50% of the value. And you folks can agree on how to divide up that 50, how to divide it all up 50-50. We start with what's most important to each person, and then we work our way back from there until it's close to 50-50, 50 or 50-50. Now, there are some situations where 50-50 is not the route, but we would talk about that in a free initial consultation. And then there's the division of the debts. The rule of law and division of the debts is they are divided by ability to pay. And what that means in layperson terms is who earns more money pays more of the debts. And It doesn't matter which of you incurred those debts. You are married, so you are financially one person. Now, we're only talking debts that were incurred during the marriage. So if you have, say, 100,000 of student loans that you accrued before the marriage, you just get to keep those. But if you have 100,000 of student loans that you accrued during the marriage, guess what? They get divided by ability to pay. So yes, you could end up paying for more than 50% of your spouse's student loans. Yay. So the other debts, of course, would include mortgages, HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, other bank loans. It could also include if you owe money to the IRS or the Minnesota Department of Revenue for income taxes. Yeah, any debts, we have to divide them. And now, if you folks don't want to follow the rule of law and you both agree, no, we're just going to divide them 50-50, or we're just going to divide them some other way, then, you can agree to that, and we'll see if the judge approves it or not. And then if you folks do have children, you're going to have to decide how to share the children. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Well, there are two different ways to do that. Either joint custody, where you both have the kids an equal amount of time, or sole physical custody. And that's really a misnomer, because neither parent solely or only has the children. But what sole physical custody actually means in Minnesota is that one parent has more parenting time with the kids. And there could be a lot of reasons to have sole physical custody of the kids to one of the parents. We don't need to go into all of them. A really common one is that, a parent works a lot and, doesn't have the time to parent, half the time. That's a big reason. And so when you have joint physical custody, equal shared parenting, you could do the 2-2-3 schedule, where the one parent has the kids 2 days, the other parent 2 days, and they flip-flop weekends. Sometimes when the kids are older, they do every other week. Or you could just do something super creative. There are a lot of parents with really complicated schedules, and we just figure out what's going to work for the kids and for the parents. And then, of course, when we're talking about the kids, we're going to have, who's going to provide the insurance and how much child support is going to be, if there's going to be child support. Spoiler alert, if you want to know how much child support is going to be, there is a calculator online. It's called the Minnesota Child Support Calculator. Sometimes it's hard to know what figures you're supposed to put in the calculator. I've had a couple of people say, I tried to do that and I didn't know what to put in there, but you can just at least try, before you contact a legal professional and, see what your child support might be. And so that's enough about the legal stuff. And there's more to divorcing than just family court. And so let's start with Anne. And Anne, I know you're not a real estate agent, but could you just tell us a little bit, Melissa wasn't able to join us today, so could you just tell us a little bit about what's going on in the real estate world right now? I know it's crazy, but could you fill in the details on crazy?
Well, yes, crazy is a good word for it. It is a seller's market. So what that generally means is you have very little inventory. People have low credit score. A lot of people have refinanced, and so they have a low interest rate. And then when the COVID hit and jobs were people were in transition with jobs, then a lot of people didn't want to risk selling their house, and then they didn't have a job, so they couldn't buy. So a lot of people did a lot of work on their houses, which makes them worth more, and that's good. But that means that fewer people were putting houses on the market. So the people that did want to buy there wasn't much out there. And then there are a lot of people competing for that. So that drives the price up. And the unfortunate thing about that is you could, sorry, you could be, hey, you could be, get so high that it can't appraise well. And then you have to come in with cash to cover the difference between the appraised price, which might be 225, and the sale price might be 250. So you have to come up with cash to cover that. So that's the real estate market. Now on the mortgage side, you might be able to afford a $250,000 purchase price, but if you can't come up with that extra 25,000, because what happens on the mortgage side is whichever is lower, the appraised value or the purchase price, and that's what they go with. So your purchase price could be 250, and the house might appraise for 265, but you can only have the lower of the two. So the companies use the 250. And to talk to you about when people are going through a divorce, I think the first thing people need to understand is they probably need to talk to somebody. So give me a call. Let's talk through your situation. What's going on? Let's pull your credit and see where it is. And I was listening to one of my coworkers speak earlier, and he was talking about you could have a credit score of 720 when you're starting the whole thing. And then if you or the other person gets ticked off and stops paying bills, now it comes time you want to purchase and your credit score has tanked by 100 points. It could be 620. So let me just give you, I ran some numbers before. If you had a 720 credit score and you put 20% down to buy a new home, your rate is 3 3/8. But if it goes down to 620, it's 3.75. So it's gone up a lot. And the other thing to remember is if you don't have 20% to put down, now you have to have mortgage insurance that you pay. So at 90% loan to value, you're only putting 10% down. On a 720 score, and this is on a $250,000 purchase price. So 720 score, you're at 3 3/8. I'm sorry. And your monthly mortgage insurance is $69.38. Everything's the same except your credit score is now 620, and your monthly mortgage insurance is $193.13. That's a lot of money. That's $130 more almost. And so what that means is you most likely no longer qualify for that $250,000 house. So you might be ticked off at that other person and think, well, I don't care if I mess up his credit score. Well, guess what? Yours gets messed up too. So make sure, no matter how ticked off you are, that you keep paying those bills. One, they're yours. They're your responsibility, whether you or he or the other person, no matter who racked up the bills, they still have to be paid. It's a legal obligation. Secondly, if you have children, you need to do that for their sake, because your car insurance will be more, your homeowner's insurance will cost more. Everything is more the lower that credit score goes. And so if you can't afford what you want to provide for your children, now you stick them in a very small apartment and have to move school districts or something like that. And it's all because you wanted to do something to that other person. So don't do it. Pay those bills and just move on with your life. But know that you can call and talk to me. It doesn't cost anything, and you may have multiple questions while you're going through the situation, and that's what voicemail's for, or phone calls or email. Okay, I forgot to ask this. That happens. Don't worry. And that's it.
Okay, now Anne needs to take a breather. um,
Now
so
that the
thanks,
dogs aren't barking.
right. Actually, at the beginning, my dogs were starting to bark, and I was like, "Oh no!" So thanks for covering both the real estate market and getting a mortgage, Anne. And Shiloh, if you could please tell us how Tubman helps people get out of bad relationships, that'd be awesome.
Thanks, I would love to. I am going to focus mostly on kind of our legal services, but it would be a shame not to tell folks just kind of briefly about all of the services that Tubman offers. Tubman serves folks of any gender identity, regardless of immigration status. We work really hard to be an agency that is available to everyone in the community. And so if you're in a situation where you are in an unsafe relationship, Tubman has emergency shelter services. We have an emergency crisis line. We also have access to the Day One services, which is kind of the statewide database that gets updated multiple times a day with open shelter beds at other agencies in the state. So instead of having to call every single agency, if you call just one, they can access that database to see if there are any shelter beds open anywhere in the state. That cuts down a lot on having to call around to different places. Tubman has a really robust program with counseling and support group services, services for children. We have a support group called Kids in Transition that's broken up in 2 different age groups. I often refer my divorce and custody clients who have concerns about how their kids are just dealing with these life and family transitions to that program. We have lots of other youth programs. We do have a youth shelter, and we have a lot of community-based violence prevention programs for youth. We go to schools and community centers and try to teach kids, younger kids about healthy relationships, trying to do a lot of our work is focused on that intervention, but trying to do some prevention work as well. So for our legal services, we offer a couple of different legal programs helping people who are looking to exit an unsafe relationship. The first program is called the Safety Project, and this program helps represent folks who are seeking orders for protection. An order for protection is basically a civil stay away order. So if you have been the victim of domestic violence, you can petition the court for an order, basically ordering the other party to not commit acts of domestic abuse against you, and ordering that they have to stay away from you, can't have contact with you, can't come to your home, and that kind of thing. And so sometimes that's the first step for people leaving a violent relationship. Sometimes it is just not possible to up and leave the relationship without this kind of safety put in place first. And so we work with legal advocates throughout the community who help people write these orders for protection. The courts in our area, Hennepin, Ramsey, and Washington County are the counties that we practice in. They're, unfortunately, they're hearing these cases every day of the week. They have these calendars going on their emergency cases. So they are cases that the court prioritizes above most all other cases. So most of the time, if you needed a protection order and you filed it, early in the day, we're probably going to get an answer by the end of the day or maybe first thing in the morning. So these are really unique things in the law that it happens very rarely that anything in the legal system would move that quickly. And so they're an important part of seeking safety, and they're where I do my most of my practices doing those orders for protection. Tubman has income guidelines, so we're grant funded, and so we have to meet the requirements that our grant funders set for us. And so all legal services are free at Tubman, but we do have to have people who meet our income guidelines. And so most of the time, if people are looking for assistance, reaching out to Tubman could be a good place to start. We can provide advocacy, so non-lawyer services to people regardless of their income. And if you're looking for lawyer services, if you're above our income guidelines, we can give you referrals to other sources. And generally speaking, we try really hard to at least get someone in contact with an attorney to do even advice, even if you don't income qualify for full legal representation. We try to at least get people in for advice. So that's our safety project. Then Tubman has a family law program where we provide representation to people in divorce and custody matters. We have the same situation where we have income guidelines there as well. Again, because as you can imagine, it is difficult to be able to afford attorney services. And so pro bono services are in high demand, and it is difficult to meet that demand. But we have good relationships with other legal aid programs. And so if you're looking for representation in a divorce or custody matter, again, I think that Tubman can be a good place to start. We can get you through an intake. If you income qualify for our services, then what happens is we do an intake with you, kind of ask some of the questions related to stuff that Christie and Ann have already talked about, right? What are the issues going to be in your divorce? Do you have kiddos? Is there a house? Is there a mortgage? What's going on right now? And then kind of processing it through our team. And then we have staff attorneys who represent on those cases. And then we also have a pool of very generous volunteer attorneys who are in private practice. That's how Christie has worked with our office. Private practice attorneys giving of their time and expertise to help us provide representation on these cases. So if there are questions, if you're looking for somewhere to start, even if you're not sure yet that divorce is where you're headed, we have a service that is just like 30-minute law clinics. So instead of signing up fully, I need an attorney, I need to get divorced, if you just have some questions about what divorce looks like, what your options might be, that's served with legal paperwork and you're not quite sure where to go yet. We have 30-minute legal clinics that happen most days of the week. Most of the time, you can get into those clinics within about a week. And so that's kind of our best, really quick opportunity to get in and get some of those initial questions answered. And I think that the materials are out there, but the number, if you were interested in applying for legal services, is 612-870-2400. And then we have a 24-hour crisis line. So if you're ever in a situation where you could use some kind of immediate assistance, obviously 911 if it's a physical emergency. But if you're looking for emergency resources, that number is, make sure I give you the right one, 612-825-0000. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Shiloh. That was like tons of information. And yes, those phone numbers will be in the contents of the video post eventually. Everybody's phone number and email address and all that will be in the video post shortly after we're done presenting. And that was just great information. And I really appreciate you being here and sharing that with us because there are a lot of people who are in bad situations and they can't afford even my services. And so now let's talk about the divorce is over. And, that's just the first part. Now you have to move on with your life, right? Nobody else is going to live your life for you. And so let's start with like some easier stuff, which would be the financial stuff. So Patrick, could you tell us how you help folks who are divorcing?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things about either when you're approaching your divorce, like you're still going through the process, or right afterwards, there's two different ways to deal with your insurance. So one of the really nice things is that there are laws in place. The state protects you. Like if your spouse calls to cancel you off their policy, that can happen. There are protections in place because it is a really big deal to end up without insurance or to have a lapse of insurance. And so these protections are built in, but they can be kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. And so part of what I try to do is help people navigate through that. And if the situation is not amicable, sometimes it can be a little bit more work, but it's definitely something that we can work through. Having that other person call in and speak to a third party so that you don't need to be involved in the conversation is totally one way to go about it before the divorce is finalized. So that means that your spouse or partner is somebody that can call in and have themselves taken off of the policy if they're willing to do so. That's not always the case, and that's where things get a little bit stickier. And in that case, it's oftentimes more, for ease of use, let's say, a little bit easier for you to just wait until the divorce is finalized. One of the things about that is you may incur some more cost by having that other person on your policy. If there are kids involved, though, that can be a good thing, that your former spouse or soon-to-be former spouse still has coverage because the children are involved as well. But there are a lot of different things to navigate when you're making that separation in your life from that person. There are obviously there's homeowners insurance and there's auto insurance, and a big one is life insurance. And so one of the things that I help people with is, one, separating those policies. So if someone's going to be keeping the home or staying in the home, then making sure that the policy stays intact for them and the other person is removed. As well as life insurance. One of the big things about that is that when you're amidst those sunny days and you're buying these life insurance policies to protect your loved ones in the event that something horrible happened, your beneficiaries may have been that person that you're now leaving or is leaving you. And so those are things that you want to make sure are updated as soon as possible. Because in the event that something did happen to you, you want to make sure that that money is going where you want it to go. Oftentimes, you can have it entrusted to your children. If there are children involved, and at the age of 18, then they'll receive that money. But they're really easy things to iron out in the long run if you're dealing with somebody who knows how. Going at it alone, I think with any of our disciplines of us that are talking here today, if you try to do what we're doing on your own, it can be really confusing, daunting, and just absolutely exhausting. And so that's not just myself, but all of us are here to answer questions. And I kind of like to think of myself as everybody's insurance agent, which sometimes gets me into trouble. I end up doing a lot of extra work, but I am more than happy to field questions from anybody who just has a question about, like, am I paying too much for my insurance? Or is this right that, something that your insurance agent told you? I'm happy to lend expertise in my area. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone aside from myself really enjoys talking about insurance, but it is one of those things that I do enjoy, and I very much enjoy helping people navigate through some of these difficult scenarios. Because if I can make something easy that seems really hard or confusing, then I think we all win. So.
Thanks, Patrick. And thanks for bringing up the life insurance. Often people will get a life insurance policy with the other parent being the beneficiary, but it's when they'll have the payor of the child support get the life insurance policy on him or herself, and then make the other parent the payee, the beneficiary, excuse me, of the life insurance policy, so that basically, if the person passes before they're done paying child support, then the parent has that money to continue to raise the children. And that's fairly common. And so, yeah, Patrick can do that as well. And so, Anne, could you please tell me, or tell not me, just me, everybody. I'm not going to be greedy here with Anne's expertise. Could you tell everybody how you can improve your credit score? Because, maybe you didn't get a good enough credit score to take over the house or buy your own house during the divorce process. What can they do to make it better?
So one of the things we can do when I pull your credit score, we have something called a what if simulator. So I can run that simulator and it can tell me, okay, you can raise this score by 20 points and this one by 15 and this one by 5. And so I know that if you pay this much down on this bill and this much down on this bill, then we can get your score up to a higher number so that you can qualify, because you have to have at least a 620 credit score pretty much today. I mean, there are places that will do them for do mortgages with a lower credit score, but it's pretty rare today, especially with everything that's going on with COVID. Things tightened up a little bit as far as guidelines because they didn't know if people were still going to have jobs next month. So that's one thing I can do with you. The other thing you can do is keep your balances on your credit cards to 30% of the total amount. Pay everything on time. Don't get new credit, and don't close your old credit, because one thing that counts toward you is the length of time you've had a credit card. So if you and your spouse have a couple of cards that have been open 12 years, then what you might want to do is one spouse take one card and one spouse take the other card, and you can take the other one off of that card. And now you each have a card that has that 12-year length. And that will be good for your credit. But pay your bills and pay them on time.
That's a really interesting concept. We might have to start adding in into divorce negotiations, keeping the oldest credit card. I want the oldest credit card. No, I want it. I never thought about that. Oh goodness. So we saved the best for last, the emotional part, so that we could focus on the serious money stuff. And then Ben, tell us how you help people after divorce or separation.
Well, I don't know that people going through divorce would say the emotional part is the best. I've been through a divorce, and I can tell you the emotional part was not the best. If I could do it all over again and have somebody just rip my emotions out with a spoon and put them on a platter for later, I would have. It would have made the process a lot easier. I think I was not clear-headed. There's a year of my life leading right up to the divorce, then mostly afterwards, that I do not remember clearly. And I didn't suffer a head trauma. I was just in emotional wound. And that emotional wound was so deep that it required all of my focus just to deal with the necessary survival pieces to get through my day to day, to wake up, to hold on to my job, and then to come home and have time for my grieving process of letting the marriage go. That was it. That was all I had room for. I literally did not have an ounce of more room. So other things that happened when friends would come by, or family gatherings, family birthday parties, I went to them, or people tell me I went to them, but I don't cognitively remember them because I was not invested in any other reality except my immediate emotional need. And I think that's true for most, I would almost say all, except there's always an exception, but the very, very high percentage of people going through divorce. And I don't think it matters too much whether you are the initiator or the receiver, or if it's mutual. Even if it's mutual and it's amicable, you still have the grieving process of a life that is now being left behind for the unknown future. And there is nothing more scarier to a human being than the unknown future. And that's where unconditional living can come in. I should say, and stop and qualify, we're not marriage and family therapists. We're not licensed counselors. We do not deal with trauma, and we do not deal with deep emotional scarring and wounding. We work with those therapists hand in hand sometimes. And first, I should say that if you're going through a divorce, if there's one thing I could have told past me, it would be get a counselor. You don't have to be mentally ill to benefit from counseling services when you're under extreme emotional pressure. We go to preventative maintenance for the doctor, we get our physical, we look ahead, we get the regular checkup, we take care of our teeth, we take care of our eyes. Why not take care of your emotional and mental well-being too before it becomes a problem? And when you're going through a life transition as intense as a divorce, you have intense emotions that need to be reckoned with. But what we do is help find a path forward because you're about to have a new life. And you may know what it is, you may have inklings, you may have some ideas or some plans, but I promise you, you're not making your best decision when you're fueled by that much emotional turbulence and transition. So our job is to help see the decisions and to find the questions and to look for the blind spots and the pitfalls that you're not focused on. Because if you're anything like me, most of your time spent is time spent dealing with maintaining your current level of life and dealing with your emotional stress and dealing with all of the logistics. And we talked about mortgages and credit cards and insurance and life insurance and kids. And that, I mean, I'm tired just thinking about it. I did not have kids when I got divorced, but I can only imagine. So why not have a group of professionals like us, myself included, to help guide you through it? We teach and coach and mentor people all the time. And to teach, we need to know the material. To mentor, we need to have know the way and have gone the way, which we have. And to coach, we need to be very good at getting curious and helping you find the best answers for you. The truth is, no matter what anybody tells you, and if you're in an acrimonious divorce, your soon-to-be ex-spouse might be telling you this, but no matter what anybody tells you, you've got the best decisions. You have the best answers for your life. You already know what the best move forward is. The biggest problem probably is you're distracted dealing with all this other stuff and don't have time to just stop and focus on the question to find those answers. And that's where we come in. And like Patrick and like Shiloh and like Anne and like Christie, we also are just up for a conversation. So you owe it to yourself and to the world to make the most of yourself. So why not give us all a call and ask if we can help you? I have just met Shiloh today. So I'm going to ask Shiloh to speak to this for herself when I'm done talking. But I know Patrick and I know Anne, and I think I'm fairly confident speaking for them and saying, we're not going to take your business just to take your money. We're only going to take your business if we can help you. We're not a non-for-profit, except for Shiloh and Tubman. We're for-profit, but we're not for a lot of profit. We're for people first, and we're here to help. So I think that's where I'll end it, Christie, in the sake of brevity and time. But we're here to help, and you owe it to yourself to make a phone call to licensed professionals, in Patrick and Anne and Shiloh, who can really help you and can get you so much farther, so much quicker, with so much less stress, and in the case of Christie, less cost, right, and less acrimony. Than you could do on your own. At Unconditional Living, we have more than one coach on staff. It's completely confidential. If you and your spouse are somewhat amicable, we can assign you different coaches so we can help both of you and keep those conversations separate and confidential between coaches. And I'm also pleased to announce we've just rolled out a sliding scale fee program. So if you're thinking somebody like me is too expensive for you, that's probably no longer true. So I would encourage you to reach out. You can email us at connect@unconditionalliving.org. And I know that Christie is going to put all of our contact information when she posts the replay. So come back to ChristieLegal's page later tonight or tomorrow and click on the video replay so you can get all that information. And now I asked Shiloh to talk, and then I just had to say those last few things. So Shiloh, is that true, what I said about the way we work, that we're here to help people first and we're not going to take your business unless we can really help you? Is that true for Tubman?
Yes, that's absolutely true. And one thing I would add, a plug for us, sometimes I think there can be a misconception. I kind of compare it to public defenders. Sometimes people think, I don't want a public defender, right? They're not going to do a good job. I'm just another number, that kind of thing. Same thing, legal aid. We have big caseloads, but we do this work because we care and because we want to help people. And that's part of the reason why, I said that the demand for our services outweighs our ability to serve, because we're not going to take cases if we cannot give good representation. We have really well-trained attorneys who know their work and really care about what they're doing. And one of the only reasons we can continue to provide these services is because of volunteer attorneys in the community who are well-trained, doing private practice. And so our services don't cost money, but we're also not in it for, grant reporting numbers or for those kinds of accolades. I can say very assuredly that all the attorneys that I work with through these programs are doing this work because they care about helping people.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And so the theme here is that we care about you. And all of us who do actually charge a fee will give you a free initial consultation. And the contact information will be in the post shortly, sometime in the next hour or so. And so please, if you have any questions at all, request of no cost / free initial consultation with one of us. And so does anybody have anything else that they would like to tell folks before we wrap up for this evening? Awesome. Okay. Well, I thank you for your time this evening, and you have a great rest of your Friday night.